The millionaire CEO breaks down in tears after receiving a mysterious beaded necklace from a man. Lucas Black, the empire builder, known for his cutting-edge biotech innovations and swanky Manhattan office, had it all. The city shone bright outside the glossy glass windows of his penthouse. Luxurious meetings fade with suits and silk, while he gripped his coffee like a lifeline. Yet, beneath the dazzling surface, a shadow loomed. Loneliness seeped into his bones, heavy and suffocating. Every night, he returned home to silence, each echo a reminder of what he lacked: a connection. On this particular brisk afternoon, the soft buzz of a high-end restaurant wrapped around him like a soft blanket. The clinking of silverware, the murmur of laughter, the fragrant scent of gourmet meals filling the air. It all felt strangely alien. He scrolled through emails, his heart racing with a dull ache, when an unexpected gust of wind brushed against him. In walked Lily, an 8-year-old girl. "Just soup and toast," she whispered, her voice like a delicate thread, barely audible above the cacophony. The waiter, perplexed by her request, shot a glance over at Lucas, his brow furrowing as if to say, "What's going on here?" Something twisted in Lucas's chest. He couldn't shake the feeling of her courage amid her loneliness. Driven by an impulse he couldn't explain, he stood, heart pounding. "I'll pay for her meal," he said, surprising even himself. The waiter raised an eyebrow, but the girl's expression transformed. Pure gratitude, a beautiful beam cutting through the grayness in Lucas's heart. "Thank you," she murmured, glancing up at him, her eyes wide and innocent. They sat together at a small table, a stark contrast to the imposing tables occupied by wealthy, uninterested guests. He learned her name, her story, the loss of her mother, the cold reality of foster homes. Each word she shared broke off pieces of Lucas's carefully constructed barriers, leaving him raw. What would they think? Then, just as their connection began to deepen, Lily placed a small beaded necklace on the table, her face serious. "It's my favorite, for you, to keep safe," she declared, assuring him with that fierce spirit that stirred something long buried in his soul. But as Lucas clutched the necklace, a wave of unease crashed over him. Why did it feel so familiar? What secrets had he buried in the shadows of his own past that threatened this newfound bond? His heart raced, fear mingling with hope. Could he really step into a new life as her protector? Or was the weight of his own guilt about to tear them apart? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important alert. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube has removed their subscriptions without warning. Take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content coming up. And while you're here, drop that powerful like that helps me a lot with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love getting to know every incredible person who is part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. Lucas held the beaded necklace, its texture cool, against his palm. A million thoughts raced through his mind. Who was this little girl? Why did she forge this connection with him so easily? He looked at her face, still radiant with the confidence of youth. But then, a loud crash shattered the atmosphere. A group of men at the largest table tipped over their drinks, laughter ceasing as they turned toward the commotion. A chair squeaked as one of the men stood, pointing. "Look at that! Who brings a kid into a place like this?" Lucas felt the flush of embarrassment creep into his cheeks. He clenched the necklace tighter, that familiar weight in his chest making it hard to breathe. But before he could respond, a piercing scream broke through the restaurant. Everyone turned. Lily's hand flew to her mouth, eyes wide. Lucas followed her gaze and froze. A woman in the corner, tall and elegant, crashed to the floor. Her high-pitched shriek echoed sharply, sending ripples of panic through the room. People jumped from their chairs, the clatter ringing louder than the girl's laughter moments before. "Call an ambulance," someone shouted. Chaos reigned, But it was Lily's sudden shift that caught Lucas completely off guard. She stood up. It was Elise, a notable figure in biotech and a fierce competitor. The woman who had once sat across from him in board meetings, challenging his every move. The room fell into silence, stunned. What did this mean? Panic washed over him. Elise could have crucial information, vital to his company. The game of dominance turned to an unthinkable reality in seconds. While he stood there, rooted in disbelief, he noticed something fall from Elise's jacket. A small, leather-bound notebook. Lucas scooped it up, heart racing. What secrets did it hold? But suddenly, the room erupted again, as sirens wailed in the distance. Lights flickered through the windows, their flashing reflections bouncing off the walls. Moments later, paramedics rushed in. Lily remained poised beside Elise, eyes firmly focused, her small frame unwavering. "Step back," a paramedic shouted, pushing Lucas aside. "Let us handle this." Lucas felt helpless, the weight of that necklace still heavy in his grip. All the laughter and warmth he had felt with Lily moments ago vanished under the shadow of uncertainty. Then, as paramedics worked, the unexpected twist struck. Elise's eyes fluttered open, locking onto Lily's. "You," she rasped, shock etched over her features. "You shouldn't be here. It's too dangerous." The gasp from the crowd echoed like thunder, questions rushing through the room. What did she mean? Lucas barely heard the murmur of confusion around him. His focus remained on the two women. What had he stumbled into? Suddenly, everything felt as if it was balancing on the edge of a cliff, with secrets ready to tumble. Fear gripped him as he realized, who was Lily really, and what role did Elise play in her life? With a deep breath, he could only wait. Each heartbeat signaled the unraveling of a web he never knew he was caught in. The questions loomed heavy. Was this a coincidence? Or was fate drawing the threads tighter? The questions loomed heavy. Was this a coincidence? Or was fate drawing the threads tighter? Just then, chaos erupted again. A figure burst through the entrance, breathless and wild-eyed, cutting through the crowd like a dart. A man, disheveled, soaking wet as if he'd just emerged from a storm. His hair flopped over his forehead, damp and clinging to his skin. "Lily," he shouted, desperate, the single word slicing through the tension in the air like a knife. Lily turned, her expression shifting from concern to shock. "Dad?" The word hung in the air, thick and heavy, sending a tremor through the onlookers. Lucas felt ice in his veins. He blinked, grappling with the reality of the moment. This was Lily's father? His mind reeled, questions spiraling. Had he just crossed an unmarked boundary, stepping into a world where family ties tangled with secrets he never imagined? The man stumbled closer, his eyes darting around the room, landing on Lily, who stood frozen by Elise's side. "There you are. I've been looking everywhere." His voice cracked, a mixture of relief and panic. "Help her." Lily pointed at Elise. Her voice trembled with urgency. "She's hurt." The father's gaze shifted, and for a fleeting second, he glanced at Lucas, his eyes narrowing as if sizing him up. Lucas felt exposed, a stranger intruding on a family scene far more profound than he realized. Then the world tilted again. The man knelt beside Lily, and in an unexpected move, he pulled her into a fierce embrace. "I thought I lost you," he gasped, his grip tightening. She wriggled free, urgency etched into her little face. "But we need to help. She's in trouble." He hesitated, then turned back to Elise. A raw edge entered his voice. "What happened here? Why is she on the floor?" Lucas absorbed the exchange, heart racing. He didn't know what to think. Just moments ago, he saw the warmth between them, a shared connection bringing joy to a lonely heart. Now, he felt sidelined, like an observer in someone else's drama. "Someone call for help," a voice echoed from the onlookers, pulling attention away from the chaos. As if on cue, the paramedics sprang into action. Lucas could feel the world tilting again as he witnessed the synchronicity. One life hanging in balance, while another fought to reclaim its hold. Then came the twist. The father's expression shifted, from frantic to unsettlingly calm. He leaned over to whisper something in Lily's ear, words muffled, but laden with urgency. Lucas couldn't catch them, but he could see the way her eyes widened. "Are you sure?" she asked, a tremor in her voice. "Trust me," he urged, his voice barely contained. A shiver ran through the room, as if the very walls held their breath. Lucas felt an uneasy pit forming in his stomach. Something wasn't right. Whatever bond held them together felt like a fragile thread about to snap. Suddenly, Lily pulled the necklace from Lucas's hand and clasped it around her father's neck. "You need this. Keep it safe," she insisted, her fingers trembling. His eyes widened, the breeze of realization sweeping through him. The gesture felt monumental, but it was also terrifying. This necklace, this unassuming piece of beaded string, what power did it hold? And then, without warning, something like a collective gasp washed over the crowd. Elise's eyes flew open wider, fixating on the necklace with unmistakable dread. "No, not that," she rasped, panic slicing through her feeble strength. All eyes turned, questions ricocheting off one another. What did she mean? With Lucas staring, frozen in shock, everything he thought he understood began to shift. Relationships were spinning out of control, and secrets, dark, tangled secrets, were surfacing in the most unexpected ways. Was this just an innocent encounter, or had he walked straight into a whirlwind of hidden truths? A new wave of uncertainty loomed, shoving past the fragile bonds he had begun to form. As the noise swelled around him, Lucas could only wonder what fate awaited them all. Elise's eyes widened, the tension wrapping around the restaurant like mist. "No, not that," she gasped again, her voice a brittle whisper that strained against the chaos. A heavy silence fell over the crowd, the unease spreading like wildfire. Lucas felt a chill skitter down his spine, the necklace dangling from Lily's father's neck, suddenly feeling like a weighty anchor that threatened to drag them all under. What does she mean? He thought, gripping the edge of the table as panic. The paramedics froze momentarily, their hands pausing over Elise, confused by the charged energy in the room. Lucas glanced at Lily, the innocent girl who had brought warmth into his lonely world, now standing with uncertain loyalties. She held her father's hand tightly, eyes darting between him and Elise. "What's wrong with the necklace?" Lucas blurted out, his voice sharper than intended. The father looked at him, wild eyes narrowing. "What do you know about it?" His tone was suddenly accusatory, the raw panic transforming into fierce protectiveness. Elise struggled to sit up, her voice shaking. "That necklace, it was hers," she gasped, pain flickering across her face. "The power, it's not just a trinket." "Whose?" Lucas pressed, his chest tightening. Every instinct screamed that he was standing on the edge of something monumental. Suddenly, Elise lunged forward, grabbing Lily's father's shirt. "You have to leave. This isn't a game. They'll come for you." Her voice was frantic. Then she turned her eyes onto Lucas, locking onto him with a desperation that shook him to his core. "You need to warn them. They don't understand." "What? Who are they?" Lucas felt the words getting twisted in his throat. The sirens outside wailed louder, cutting through the thick atmosphere. People in the restaurant, unsure of what to do, murmured among themselves. Eyes darted nervously, judging and speculating. Then erupted the unexpected chaos. A loud crash of glass shattered through the noise. The double doors slammed open, sending a flurry of air rushing in. An ominous figure stood silhouetted against the daylight. "Find her," an authoritative voice boomed, slicing straight through the heavy air. A man, tall and imposing, stepped into view. Dark glasses shaded his eyes. He surveyed the scene with an eerie calmness that contrasted sharply with the rising panic. Lily's father stiffened, recognition dawning in his features. You. He stepped back, his grip on Lily tightening in a protective instinct. In that moment, Lucas could see the jigsaw pieces fracturing, relationships morphing before his eyes. What is going on? He felt a scream building inside, but he couldn't let it out. The man approached, gaze fixed on Elise, with a menacing intensity. You shouldn't have brought her here, he said, voice dripping with menace. You don't understand the game you're playing. Hand over the necklace, and we won't have to take drastic measures. Lily shivered next to her father, her small hands trembling. No, she cried. It's not safe. The crowd erupted in whispers, fear dancing in the air. Lucas felt like he'd been thrust into a nightmare, reality unraveling into threads he could barely grasp. Who was this man, and what secrets flowed through the necklace? Through the fog of panic, curiosity spiked. Lily, what are you hiding? Who are you really? Lucas questioned, desperation lacing his voice. Her wide blue eyes filled with unshed tears. I'm just trying to help, she whimpered, the innocence clashing violently with the chaos swirling around them. In the midst of the storm, Elise's voice broke through again. Lily, listen to me. They will come for you if you stay. You don't understand the threat. Lucas felt the room tilt sideways as understanding slapped him. This wasn't just about a girl in a cafe. This was about power, legacy, and danger lurking behind every smile. Then, before he could process it all, the man lunged forward, grabbing Lily's wrist just as she tried to pull back. You're coming with me, he commanded, a claim heavy with finality. No, Lucas shouted, steps toward them, heart racing. He reached out, feeling the weight of the necklace pressed against his palm, a connection that felt deeper than anything. It thrummed with energy, threads of fate weaving around him. In that instant, all he could think was that this was not the end. Something dark loomed ahead, promising secrets and revelations that could shatter everything they thought they knew. Who would survive the night? Who would pay the price? The tension snapped as Lucas felt his chest tighten. They were all trapped in a web, and nobody knew how far the lies extended. Would he really step up as protector? Or would he become just another pawn in a game too dangerous to comprehend? As the figure approached, the air thickened with an uneasy tension. Every heartbeat thundered in Lucas's ears. You're coming with me. The man snapped at Lily, an unyielding grip tightening around her wrist. No, Lucas shouted, stepping forward, panic igniting within him. He couldn't allow this to happen. The restaurant felt like a cage, walls closing in with whispered judgments from the crowd. His gaze flicked from the man to Lily's father. What would he do? In a flash, Elise gasped. You can't take her. She doesn't belong to you. The urgency in her voice cut through the chaos, but the words felt twisted. Before anyone could react, the doors to the restaurant swung violently open again, a sweeping gust of wind pouring in. The distant wail of sirens echoed, but what followed stunned everyone into silence. A group of officers, badges gleaming, rushed in, their faces taut with determination. Step aside. We need to secure the area. Lucas's heart raced. What was happening? This was spiraling out of control. The commotion swelled around them, bodies shuffling, conversations buzzing. But amidst it all, the man who held Lily didn't budge. I said let go, he shouted back at the officers, the wildness of his eyes becoming a frantic plea, though they all saw the threat he posed. The officers exchanged glances, tension crackling in the air like dry leaves underfoot. Put down your hands and let the child go, one officer ordered. But the man tightened his hold on Lily, who looked scared yet resolute. Get away from her, her father demanded, stepping in, fists clenched. It was the first glimpse of protection that surged through Lucas. The father would fight for his girl. But just then, something flashed across Lily's face, a fleeting realization. Stop, she shouted suddenly, voice strong, cutting through the escalating noise. All heads turned. Everyone stop! The room fell silent, breaths held in anticipation. Lucas caught the flicker of something deeper in her eyes. An understanding far beyond her years. "I know who he is. I know the truth," she yelled, her small body trembling but standing firm. The man's grip faltered, and a sharp murmur broke out across the crowd, eyes darting between the child and the stranger. Lucas's pulse quickened, sweat gathering at his brow. What did she mean? "I saw everything," Lily continued, eyes shining with fierce clarity. "You can't hide it anymore. You're not my dad. You're not who you say you are." The room gasped collectively, confusion swirling. The man's composure splintered. Panic flashed across his features, a mask slipping. He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. "Who are you?" Lucas's voice barely rose above a whisper, but it held a weight of accusation. The crowd leaned in, all eyes now focused on the man, the supposed father, the mysterious figure tangled in this mess. Just when it seemed he'd crumble under the truth, the stranger straightened, an eerie calm washing over him. "You're too clever for a child," he sneered, defiance twisting his voice. "But we both know what you really are." The implications hung in the air, heavy and electric. Lucas felt the ground shift beneath him. Pieces began to fly apart, the narrative breaking like fragile glass. "Lily," he began, heart racing, but she cut him off. "Don't you see? You thought you knew everything, but you don't. The necklace, it holds the truth." She pointed at him, then at the man still holding her wrist. "It's all tied together." "You," her voice caught, fear flashing across her small face. "You were never meant to find it." Just then, the man lunged, but it wasn't at Lily. His fist came up, aiming toward Lucas. "Get out of my way." The officer sprang into action, seizing the moment. But as chaos erupted, the real twist struck. The moment the man swung, a blinding light enveloped the room. It pulsed, vibrating through everything. The walls, the tables, the very air. The glare was intense, shocking, and in that split second, everything changed. When the light dimmed, Lucas blinked, trying to figure out what had just happened. The restaurant felt eerily quiet again, but something was different. Very different. He instinctively looked down at the necklace in his hand. It pulsed softly, illuminating faint symbols. And then, something screamed within him, an ancient recognition. Everything he thought he understood twisted again. The laughter, the warmth, the ties, were they ever real? Or just another layer veiling something disastrous? And as he glanced back up, faces were changed, altered in ways he couldn't fathom. Relationships felt distorted, reality bending like a reflection in water. "Lucas," Elise cried out, eyes wild with shock, but he was already following the wave of revelation crashing around him. What happened? But the question hung heavy with uncertainty, hearts racing in a new, uncharted territory. What had the light revealed? Who were they now? And most haunting of all, what lay ahead as the darkness threatened to swallow them all whole? Elise gasped, her wide eyes fixated on the necklace, the pulse of light diminishing around them. Lucas felt a jolt. Something was shifting. The energy in the room felt alive, buzzing like a live wire. But before he could even form a thought, a sharp sound sliced through the tension. A shattering crash erupted from the back of the restaurant, and suddenly, a fire alarm blared. Bright red lights began to flash, drawing everyone's attention, confusion sparking in the crowd. "Out! Everyone out!" an officer shouted, their stern voice cutting through the chaos. People scrambled, chairs overturning, tables shoving aside in a rush to escape. Fear hung thick in the air, anxiety tightening in every chest. Lucas turned instinctively to reach for Lily, but in that moment, chaos rearranged everything. Through the wild scramble, the man with the dark glasses slipped between diners, his face warping into an expression of fury masked by desperation. "No," he yelled, whipping back toward Elise, arm raised menacingly. "You can't!" But before he could finish, the glow from the necklace flared up, illuminating the entire room like midday sun. People shielded their eyes, stumbling backward. Lucas squinted against the glare, and when he looked up again, the man was gone. Sweat dripped down his temples. Where had he gone? Panic seized him. Lily. He turned, seeking her in the shambles of bodies, but all he found was twisting confusion and flickering shadows. Over here. Lily's voice cut through the noise like music. Relief washed over him. He dashed toward her and her father, both trying to navigate the chaos. Get to the exit, her father commanded, gripping her arm tightly. But Lily stood frozen, pointing back into the swirling mass of people. He's gone. He just vanished. What? Lucas breathed, glancing back, but all that met his eyes were frantic faces. Then Elise whispered something, words just for him. The necklace, it's tied to a power, to a legacy. She struggled to rise from behind a table, eyes wild. You need to understand its true nature, Lucas. It was never just a trinket. His heart pounded. What do you mean? Who was that man? But then, as if summoned by a dark spell, the man reappeared, facing them with a fury that twisted the air. But now, something incredible happened. He stumbled back, revealing a shadow behind him, a dark figure that exploded from nowhere, cloaked and determined. Let her go, the figure shouted with a fierce authority that sliced through the chaos. Lucas's breath hitched. Who was this new player in their dire game? But before he could process it all, the figure lunged toward the man, tackling him to the ground as the crowd's panic heightened. The sound of a scuffle, the thud of bodies hitting the floor. Lucas's feet pressed against the ground, instinct urging him forward. Get Lily, he shouted to her father. I'll get Elise. But just as he sprinted toward Elise, the world surged again. A necklace pulsed, and Lucas felt time itself distort. A whirlwind of energy seemed to spiral through him, blurring everything. He stumbled, disoriented. And in that disarray, a voice roared through the din. You're too late. The truth is in the blood. She knows. Lily's father clenched his fists, stepping forward as pure terror flickered across his face. Lily, no, you can't. Confusion wrapped around Lucas. What blood? What truth? The air thickened with secrets. Danger lurking in every heartbeat. The lights flickered and faded. The hold that they all shared strained, rooted in uncertainty. Then, just as the noise swelled, Elise suddenly fell to the ground, clutching her chest. We need to get out. It's the only way. Her voice trailed off, her strength waning. But before anyone could react, the building tremored. A low rumble echoed, reverberating through the walls. The fire alarm blared louder, chaos merging into overwhelming uncertainty. Lucas felt himself taut, each moment stretching into eternity. What's happening? What's coming? He thought, bewildered. Shadows danced, revealing flashes of something ancient and dark. The necklace brightened again, illuminating faces twisted by fear. Secrets of the past intertwined, exposing fragility amid strength. A fragile web spun tighter, the threads of fate drawing them all into the unknown. And just as Lucas reached for the necklace again, the lights flickered off completely. Curtain falls, thrusting all into darkness. What lay ahead, hidden beneath the surface? Only the sound of rushing feet filled the void, as everything spiraled towards an uncertain destiny. The darkness wrapped around them, thick and suffocating. A cold sweat dripped down Lucas's back as he fought to shake off the overwhelming panic that clawed at him. Sirens wailed outside, blaring and relentless. But here, in this confined chaos, his world narrowed down to just a few scattered faces. Lily, he called again, scanning the dimly lit room, searching for her bright red dress in the madness. His heart pounded, each thump echoing with dread as he tried to reach through the blackness. The air crackled with tension, each breath bringing dread and The room felt eerily still, shadows shifting like ghosts. Suddenly, a bright flash exploded from the necklace. It flickered like an urgent warning sign, illuminating faces frozen in shock. Lucas squinted against the glow, feeling the energy pulse through the air, the power radiating like heat waves. It surged higher, shimmering like a star caught in a storm. He reached for it, feeling a magnetic pull, when a loud thud resounded from the back, drawing every eye. The man with dark glasses had returned, moving through the now silent crowd, a predator reclaiming control. "Everyone out," he commanded, voice booming like thunder, his hands raised in aggression. People scrambled, fear igniting a frantic flight. You don't know what's at stake, but Lucas couldn't look away. Not now. You could see it in Lily's father's eyes, rage mixed with desperation. "You think you can just take her?" he shouted, stepping forward, fists clenched, radiating the strength of a father protecting his young. As chaos spiraled around them, the figure behind the dark glasses fired a warning shot, eyes narrowing dangerously. "She doesn't belong to you. Keep your hands off her." "Stop." Lily's voice rang out with childlike authority, cutting through the rising fear like a knife. She stood tall, even as the world around her collapsed. "This is bigger than you." The man hesitated, confusion flickering across his face. "What do you know?" he spat out, the bravado shaking, uncertainty creeping into his posture. And just like that, everything shifted. The necklace throbbed with life again, and a pulse of light seemed to merge with Lily, filling her tiny frame with an unearthly glow. "I'm not just a little girl. I've seen things." The moment hung thick and charged. The angle of reality shifted, revealing layers of truth previously buried under lies. Lucas's stomach dropped, dread pooling heavy in his chest. "What are you talking about, Lily?" His voice was barely a whisper, trembling with disbelief. Lily's eyes, bright with fear and resolve, blazed. "The necklace is a key to who we really are." She pointed at Elise, whose breaths grew shallow, the tension snapping as she fell back against the table. "Trust her." Elise gasped, her voice ragged. "You don't know what she is." That's when Lucas felt it, a jolt like an electric shock. The world spun around him as the truth settled like ice in his veins. "What do you mean?" he breathed, an icy grip of understanding creeping into his heart. "There's a power that flows through our blood," Lily's father shouted, the desperation morphing into rage. "You were never supposed to find that necklace, Lily. You were never supposed to know the truth." Everyone froze. Time warped like a rubber band stretched to its limit. Lily's father wasn't just a protective man. He was afraid. Afraid of what she might learn. Then, with fierce determination, Lily took a step forward. "I'm going to find out who I am, and I won't let you stop me." But before the weight of her words could settle, the room exploded around them. The necklace flashed one last time before everything went dark. The silence shattered like glass. When the light returned, Lucas blinked, stunned. They weren't in the restaurant anymore. Instead, they stood in a surreal land, a vast, luminous expanse stretching out as far as the eye could see, colors warped and twisted, vibrant and unfamiliar. The air thrummed with energy, charged by secrets buried for way too long. And then, above them, a voice erupted, resonating like thunder. "Welcome back." The sound echoed, familiar yet haunting, and in that moment, Lucas understood. Reality had shifted into something unrecognizable. Who had they really been? What lay ahead? The questions twisted in his gut as they faced an unforeseen dimension of their existence. The relationships he thought were strong now felt fragile. Everyone was a stranger, the danger palpable. And as Lucas stood, heart racing, the challenge was clear. Uncover the truth or be consumed by it. The vibrant expanse stretched endlessly around them, colors swirling in a chaotic dance. Lucas looked at Lily, the necklace illuminating their faces, revealing expressions caught between hope and fear. He felt a tightness in his chest, an urgency tinged with disbelief. "What just happened?" he whispered, still processing the sudden shift, the adrenaline thrumming beneath his skin. The air around him buzzed with a surreal energy, every heartbeat echoing louder in this unknown realm. Lily's eyes sparkled with confusion and determination. "I don't know, but we have to," she began, but then the ground trembled. A low rumble vibrated beneath their feet. "Look!" Elise gasped, her voice shaky. They all turned. Far across the horizon, a crack cleaved through the air, sending tremors into the ground, fracturing the strange light above. The colors flickered, shadows swirling with a life of their own. And suddenly, a figure emerged from the crack. Tall and outlined in dark, flickering hues, it stepped forward, as if spilling from the very fabric of their shattered reality. "Time to pay for your sins," the figure intoned, voice gravelly and deep, reverberating like thunder. Lucas felt his breath hitch, cold creeping over his skin. Who was this? What sins? "Who are you?" the man with dark glasses shouted, his bravado cracking under the intensity. Lucas felt the air grow thick with tension, the stakes rising like a tidal wave threatening to drown them. The figure stepped closer, its eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. "You brought this upon yourselves," it hissed, pointing an otherworldly finger at each of them. "Every choice lays a path. I am here to collect." "Collect what?" Lucas shouted, heart racing. The ground beneath him quaked, a sharp crack slicing the air. What was happening? But the figure turned its gaze toward Lily. "You hold the key, young one. The truth isn't just your heritage, it's a curse." The necklace pulsated, the light flaring in sync with Lily's terror-stricken expression. "What do you mean?" she cried, small hands trembling. "Generations of this lineage have hid the truth," it continued, gesturing wildly. "A power so dangerous it can bend reality, yet it corrupts. Those who possess it become consumed." The gravity of its words hit like a shockwave, resonating through Lucas. They weren't just facing a threat. Their very identities were being questioned. What did it mean to wield this power? Lily's father stepped forward, fists clenched, eyes burning with protective fierceness. "You're lying. She's just a girl." "You've got it wrong." Suddenly, the air tightened with anticipation. The ground beneath them erupted in a violent spout of energy, hurling Lucas backward into darkness. Stunned, he scrambled to his feet, catching his breath. But when he looked around, everything had changed. The landscape morphed, revealing a room filled with flickering shadows. The restaurant, yet different. The patrons were there, but their faces blurred, twisted like figures from a nightmare. "What the?" Lucas breathed. Then, from the shadows, he saw her, a woman dressed in black, her features sharp, eyes glinting with a knowing smile. "Welcome back, Lucas," she said, her voice echoing through the room. He squinted, the recognition hitting him like a punch. "Who are you?" "I am the Echo," she replied, stepping closer and brushing a finger against the edge of the necklace still clutched in his hand. "You've searched for so long, but the truth is far more complicated than you ever imagined." "Complicated?" Lucas echoed, feeling a rush of dread. What did she know? Truth. Just as she opened her mouth to answer, Lily screamed, "No, don't listen to her." Panic surged, and Lucas turned to see the darkness coiling like a serpent around her father. "Stay away from her," Lucas shouted, lunging to protect Lily. But the Echo's gaze stopped him in his tracks, a force pulling him back. "What you believe is a family bond is merely a masquerade." Her smile turned sharp, edges glinting in the murky light. "You are all connected in ways you cannot comprehend." The ground shook violently again, scattering the others. Lucas felt his heart pound, and just then, everything imploded in blinding light. When it faded, he found himself alone, the room echoing with the weight of secrets. "What just happened?" he murmured, cradling the necklace. Fear swelled. But something else brewed within him, a stubborn resilience rising. He wouldn't be a pawn in someone else's game. He had to uncover the truth, even if it terrified him. But what truth? And who was really connected? With every breath, the questions multiplied. And lurking in the shadows, a chilling idea crept in. If the echo spoke the truth, who was the real enemy? And who could he trust? As darkness crawled back over the horizon, all he could do was brace himself for what lurked ahead. The darkness pressed close, isolating Lucas in a grasping veil of uncertainty. The glow from the necklace flickered, casting erratic shadows on the walls, each pulse echoing like a heartbeat. His heart raced, the din of the world outside slipping away into a hush. This was it, the moment that would change everything. But then a sudden crack split through the air. It echoed like thunder, sharp and unyielding. Lucas turned, eyes widening in horror as the wall of the room shattered. Debris exploded outward, raining down chaos. And through the dust and fragments stepped a woman, her silhouette stark against the brightness beyond. The echo but different. A blazing aura wrapped. "Enough!" she cried, voice slicing through the chaos like a blade. "You're all lost in a web of lies." The tension snapped tight as every eye turned her way, gaping at her fierce proclamation. Confusion rippling through the crowd. "What do you mean?" Lucas stepped forward, desperation sharpening his tone. Fear clawed at his insides. "What lies?" But she didn't look at him. Her gaze burned into Lily, the girl who felt so young, yet ancient all at once. "The truth is not what you think." The necklace pulsed violently in Lucas's palm. "What truth?" he shouted, frustration spilling over as adrenaline pumped through his veins. Just then, the ground trembled again, the air growing thick with energy. Lucas felt every hair on his body stand on end. He had to find out what was happening, what was at stake. "Listen to her," Elise gasped, struggling to catch her breath. "She knows what we've been hiding." But before she could say more, the echo advanced, hands outstretched, eyes locked onto Lily with an intensity that felt charged with purpose. "You have to remember, child. You were born for this." "What do you mean?" Lily cried, the innocence washing away, leaving only confusion and fear. And that's when the unexpected twist struck like lightning. A flash of light ignited the room. Everyone shielded their eyes, but Lucas couldn't look away. When the brightness faded, Lily was gone. Where she stood moments before was now just a spark fading in the chaos. Panic erupted around him as time slowed. "No, Lily!" Lucas screamed, desperation clawing at his chest. The room exploded with shouts, the chaos ballooning. The echo's face twisted with shock, a shadow of fear crossing her features. "What have you done? What have you done?" The words echoed back at Lucas, twisted with doubt and anger. He felt like he was falling, spiraling through a void. Then, suddenly, a voice emerged, soft yet commanding. "You see? You can't protect her." A new figure appeared from behind the broken wall. A man with familiar features, dark hair, deep-set eyes. It was Lucas's father, or at least someone who bore an uncanny resemblance. "You abandoned me," the man yelled, voice echoing with pain. Lucas felt his soul fracture. "What? No, you're not dead, Lucas. Just hidden from you. The necklace binds us all. It ties you to her, to me." The man stepped closer, the tension thickening like storm clouds. "We are woven into a legacy that was never meant to be broken." What twisted game is this? Lucas felt heat rising in his cheeks, disbelief spreading like wildfire. "You left me, you let me believe you were gone." The faces around him contorted in shock, whispers sparking alarms. Everyone was looking, eyes wide with fear and confusion. "It was for your protection," his father pressed, desperation slipping into his voice. "Your life holds the key, but connecting with her? Dangerous." "Why?" Lucas shouted, chest tightening with rage. The lies spun like a web around him, threatening to ensnare him once again. And where did Lily go? But the answers hung heavy in the air, dark and suffocating. The room pulsed with uncertainty, the shadows closing in. The truth felt like ripples on the surface of a dark sea, twisting, reshaping, and as the glow from the necklace dimmed, Lucas knew he had to act fast. The weight of generations pressed down, the danger shifting like fog in the dawn. Everything had changed. Everything was at stake, and as more secrets threatened to pour forth, the real question loomed. Could he save Lily, or had he lost her forever? Lily stood frozen, caught in an invisible web of time and truth. The air around them shimmered, thick with secrets. Lucas clenched the necklace tightly, a lifeline in the swirling chaos. "What do you mean?" he yelled, desperately seeking answers. The dark figure, his father, advanced, eyes burning. "You're part of something bigger, Lucas. Can't you see? It was never just about you." His voice resonated through the tension, the weight of regret thickening the air. Lily finally found her voice, pushing through the fear. "I'm not afraid. I need to know the truth." The light from the necklace flared around her, illuminating the doubts that had clung to her for too long. She turned to her father, defiance etched into her small frame. "You can't control me." The ground trembled again, echoes of energy swirling around them like a storm. Elise screamed, pulling herself up. "Lily, don't. This isn't something you should get involved in." But it's too late. The bonds between them were unraveling, each truth pulling them apart, each choice a test. A crack echoed from the wall, dark once again. And when the dust settled, the echo appeared, defiantly reclaiming her power. "You are destined for more, child. Break free from your past." Her voice rang out, fierce and unwavering. Lucas felt a surge within him, a force he never expected. He stepped forward, heart racing. "What do you want from us?" he demanded, eyes fierce. They all seemed to shift, unsure of what to believe anymore. The echo pointed, her finger glowing with energy. "The legacy is yours to command, but only if you choose to embrace it." A pulse radiated from Lily's necklace, drawing them back into the moment. A deep truth rumbling through every heart. "Together, we can fight this," Lucas said, glancing at Lily. Their eyes locked. There was a connection, stronger than anything forged in fear. At that instant, the dark figure lunged. But before Lucas could react, Lily raised her hand, drawing on the necklace's power. It erupted into brilliant light, slicing through shadows, illuminating their faces. "Enough," she shouted. "No more hiding." The darkness recoiled, revealing a path forward. Suddenly, everything shifted. The walls of uncertainty trembled, and in that clash, clarity emerged. Lucas felt the chains of his past beginning to break. Lily's father faltered, eyes softening for the first time. "You're right. I've tried so hard to protect you, but it's time for you to step into your own power." The struggle within him lifted, a weight released. Lucas felt hope blossoming in his chest. "We can move forward, together," he urged, hand reaching out to Lily. A nod passed between them. The light from the necklace surged, and the air shimmered with promise. Lucas's father melted into the shadows, his fate uncertain now that truths were revealed. But as the echoes of their declarations faded, the world shifted again. The force pulling at them changed, leaving Lucas standing alone in an empty void. "What just happened?" he whispered into the silence. His heart ached, the necklace still warm, the bond of connection growing heavier. Just then, remnants of the past flickered in and out of sight. Memories, faces, voices, each one a reminder of their journey, of what they'd sacrificed. A heavy silence fell over the realm, punctuated by the lingering questions of who they were now and who they would become. As Lucas steadied himself against the unknown tide, he couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. Darkness whispered in the corners, but with the light beside him, he felt ready to embrace whatever was next. The flickering hope burned bright. They would find their way. And as the figure of the echo lingered, watching, Lucas understood. Their journey was far from over. Now, as you reflect on this incredible adventure, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help us grow. Flood the comment section with your reactions and theories about the ending. It matters. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to know this outcome. Only true fans understand the